My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm 35 years old, and last April I discovered that my twin sister had been living in my house, sleeping in my bed, and raising my daughter, while I worked 90-hour weeks in another state to pay for it all. The text message that shattered my world came at 2:17 in the morning. I was sitting in my car outside a 24-hour diner in Boise, Idaho, finishing up invoices for the third construction site I'd visited that week. My phone buzzed and I almost ignored it. Almost. It was from Mia, my sister, my twin sister. The message read, "Ruby asked me today why you don't love her anymore." I stared at that sentence for what felt like an hour but was probably only 30 seconds. Ruby, my daughter. My 7-year-old baby girl with the gap-toothed smile and the obsession with butterflies. The child I was working myself into the ground for. I typed back with shaking fingers. "What are you talking about? I call her every single night." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "She says talking on the phone isn't the same as having a real mom. I'm trying, Maya, but she needs you, not just your money." Before I continue, please like and subscribe, but only if this story speaks to you. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from right now? Have you ever sacrificed everything for family, only to realize they were taking advantage of you? Now, let me take you back to the beginning, to the day that set everything in motion. It was 3 years ago, June 15th. I was sitting in my tiny apartment in Phoenix, Arizona, the AC barely keeping up with the 112-degree heat outside. Ruby was 4 years old, curled up on the couch, watching Bluey for the millionth time. I was on my laptop, desperately searching for jobs that paid more than the $32,000 a year I was making as an office assistant. The knock on the door made me jump. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was Mia. She looked terrible. Mascara streaked down her face. Her hair was a mess, and she was carrying a duffel bag that looked like it had seen better days. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Please, Maya, I have nowhere else to go." Of course I let her in. She was my twin, my other half. We'd shared a womb, shared a room for 18 years, shared everything. You don't turn your back on that. She collapsed onto my secondhand armchair and told me everything. Her boyfriend, Derek, the one she'd been with for 6 years, had kicked her out. She'd lost her job at the salon 3 weeks ago and hadn't told anyone. She had $97 to her name and a maxed-out credit card. "I'll help you," I said immediately, because that's what I always said. "You can stay here. We'll figure it out." Mia looked at me with those big brown eyes, identical to mine, filled with tears. "I don't deserve you, Maya. I really don't." She was right about that. But I didn't know it yet. The arrangement was supposed to be temporary. 2 weeks, maybe 3, just until Mia got back on her feet. But 2 weeks turned into a month, and a month turned into 6 months. She couldn't find a job, she said. The economy was bad. Places weren't hiring. She'd apply to 20 positions a week and hear nothing back. Meanwhile, I was drowning. My tiny 1-bedroom apartment wasn't meant for 3 people. Ruby had to share my bedroom, sleeping in a toddler bed crammed next to mine. Mia took the couch, her clothes overflowing from her duffel bag onto every surface. The bills piled up. Groceries for 3 instead of 2, higher electric bills because Mia kept the AC running full blast all day, streaming services she insisted we needed because she was going stir-crazy at home. That's when I saw the job posting, construction project manager in Boise, Idaho, $78,000 a year, more than double what I was making. I stared at that number until my eyes burned. $78,000. I could pay off my credit card debt. I could save for Ruby's college fund. I could actually, maybe possibly breathe, but Boise was far. A 12-hour drive from Phoenix. I'd have to leave Ruby. "Take it," Mia said when I told her about the offer. She was folding laundry on my couch, her laundry, because she still wasn't working. "I'll watch Ruby. I'm here anyway and she's comfortable with me. You could come home on weekends." I hesitated. Something felt off. But when I looked at Ruby, at her worn-out sneakers that were getting too small and the cereal I'd started buying at the dollar store to save money, I didn't see another option. "Are you sure?" I asked Mia. "It's a big responsibility." "She's my niece," Mia said, smiling that smile that was a mirror of my own. "I love her like she's mine. Go make that money, sis. We'll be fine." So I went. The first month in Boise was brutal. I lived in a motel that charged by the week, eating ramen and canned soup to save money. Every penny I earned went back to Phoenix, to the apartment, to Ruby's needs, to keeping my daughter safe and fed. I called Ruby every single night, 7 o'clock on the dot, right before her bedtime. "Mama!" Her voice always made my heart hurt and sore at the same time. "Guess what happened today?" She'd tell me about preschool, about the butterflies she saw in the park, about the cookies Aunt Mia made, and I'd listen, storing every detail, trying to be present even though I was 800 miles away. "I love you, baby girl," I'd say every night. "Mama's working hard so we can have a better life." "I love you too, Mama. When are you coming home?" "Soon, baby, soon." But soon kept getting pushed back. The project in Boise led to another project. And another. My boss loved my work. I got promoted to senior project manager. My salary jumped to $95,000. I sent most of it home. I paid off my credit cards. I started a college fund for Ruby. I sent Mia money for rent, for groceries, for Ruby's preschool tuition, for dance classes, for birthday parties, for everything. Mia sent me photos. Ruby in her dance recital costume, grinning. Ruby on her first day of kindergarten wearing the backpack I'd ordered online. Ruby at the zoo holding Mia's hand, always Mia's hand, never mine. "You're doing amazing," Mia would text. "Ruby's thriving. You're such a good mom, working so hard for her." I believed her. God, I believed her. The warnings were there, though. Little things I told myself not to worry about. Like when I came home for Christmas that first year, and Ruby seemed distant. She hugged me, but it wasn't the same. She called me Mama, but she called Mia Mom when she thought I wasn't listening. "She's just adjusting," Mia explained. "You know how kids are. She'll warm up." Or when I noticed that my apartment looked different. New curtains, a different couch, a flat-screen TV I definitely didn't buy. "Oh, I got those on sale," Mia said quickly, "with my tip money from the salon. I wanted to make the place nice for Ruby." "You're working again?" I asked, surprised. "That's great. When did you start?" "Just a couple weeks ago," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Part-time. Nothing major." I should have asked more questions. I should have paid attention to the way she changed the subject. But I was so tired, and I only had 3 days at home before I had to get back to Idaho, and I just wanted to enjoy my time with Ruby. The second year was harder. The projects got bigger, the travel got worse. I was working 90-hour weeks sometimes, managing 3 construction sites across 2 states. I made $112,000 that year. I sent $70,000 of it back to Phoenix. I was living in a studio apartment in Boise that cost $900 a month. I drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic that barely started in the winter. I wore the same 5 work outfits on rotation, buying new clothes only when the old ones literally fell apart. But Ruby, I told myself, Ruby had everything she needed: private school, art classes, a safe home. That's what mattered. The phone calls started getting shorter. Ruby was busy with homework, with friends, with activities. She loved me, she said, but could we make it quick because her favorite show was on? "She's growing up," Mia assured me. "It's normal. She's just becoming more independent." I came home for her 7th birthday in March. I'd saved for months to buy her the electric keyboard she'd been begging for, the one she'd shown me in a million YouTube videos during our calls. When I walked into the apartment, arms full of presents, Ruby looked up from the couch with a blank expression. "Oh," she said. "Hi, Mama." Not, "Mama, you're here." Not running into my arms like she used to, just, "Oh, hi." Mia appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Surprise," she said brightly. "Look who made it." Ruby turned back to her iPad. "Can I finish this level?" My heart cracked right down the middle. The party was strange. There were kids there I'd never heard of, parents I'd never met. They all knew Mia, greeted her warmly, asked about her day. When they asked who I was, there was this awkward pause before Mia said, "This is Maya, Ruby's mom. She works out of state." The way she said it, like I was some distant relative visiting for the weekend. Not Ruby's mother. Not the person paying for every single thing in this apartment, including the organic fruit platter Mia was serving and the custom birthday cake from the expensive bakery downtown. One of the moms pulled me aside. "It's so great that you and your sister co-parent so well," she said. "Mia talks about you sometimes. She said it's hard being a single mom, but she makes it work." I felt like I'd been punched. "I'm sorry, what?" The mom looked confused. "Mia," she said, "she's Ruby's mom. I mean, I know you help out financially, which is really generous of you, but—" "Excuse me," I managed to say, and I walked to the bathroom before I could throw up. I locked the door and stared at myself in the mirror. At my reflection, that looked exactly like Mia's, except I had dark circles under my eyes from the 6 a.m. flight I'd taken to get here, and she looked rested, happy, like someone who wasn't working 90 hours a week in a different state. My phone buzzed. A notification from my bank. I opened it and my blood ran cold. Withdrawal, $3,000. Memo. Cash advance. I hadn't made any cash advance. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my banking app. I scrolled through the transactions from the past month. Target, $400. Nordstrom, $700. Sephora, $200. Restaurants I'd never been to. Stores I'd never shopped at. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars multiple times a week. I'd given Mia access to my checking account. For emergencies, I'd said. For Ruby's needs. This wasn't for Ruby. I sat on that bathroom floor for 20 minutes, scrolling through months of transactions. Thousands and thousands of dollars. My money. My money. When I came out, the party was in full swing. Ruby was laughing, surrounded by friends, Mia at her side. They looked like a perfect little family, and I was the stranger who sent checks. I left the next morning, told Mia I had an emergency at work, which wasn't even a lie. There was an emergency, just not the kind she thought. Back in Boise, I did what I should have done years ago. I dug deeper. I pulled my credit report. Clean, thank God. At least she hadn't opened cards in my name. I requested statements for the checking account I'd given her access to. 2 years of statements. It took me 3 days to go through them all. 3 days of barely sleeping, barely eating, just looking at the numbers. In 2 years, Mia had spent $119,000 of my money. $119,000. Not on Ruby. I could account for Ruby's expenses, and they were maybe $20,000 total over 2 years. Preschool, kindergarten, clothes, activities, all reasonable. The rest? Designer handbags, expensive dinners, a weekend trip to Vegas I knew nothing about, furniture, electronics, clothes, spa treatments, Botox appointments, for God's sake. She'd been living like she was rich. On my money. While I ate ramen in a studio apartment and wore the same 5 outfits on repeat. I didn't sleep that night, or the next night, or the night after that. I called my bank first. The customer service representative, a woman named Jennifer, listened to my situation with professional sympathy. "I need to remove someone's access to my account," I told her, trying to keep my voice steady. "My sister, she's been using the money inappropriately." "I understand, ma'am," Jennifer said. "I can help you with that right away. I'm also going to recommend you change all your passwords and security questions, and I'd suggest opening a new account entirely, just to be safe." "Can she see that I've done this?" I asked. "Will she get a notification or something?" There was a pause. "No, ma'am. The changes will be immediate, but she won't receive any alerts about it. The next time she tries to access the account, she simply won't be able to." I closed my eyes, imagined Mia's face when her debit card got declined at Nordstrom or Sephora or whatever expensive store she was shopping at with my money. Part of me felt guilty. The other part felt satisfied. "Do it," I said. "All of it." It took 47 minutes to secure everything. New account, new passwords, new security questions. I used details Mia would never know. The name of my first supervisor in Boise, the street I lived on in my first apartment, Ruby's pediatrician's name. When we finished, Jennifer said something that stuck with me. "Ma'am, I process these kinds of requests more often than you'd think. Family members taking advantage. And I just want you to know, you're doing the right thing. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's necessary." I thanked her and hung up. Sat in my car in the Denny's parking lot for another 20 minutes just staring at my phone. Then I did something I'd been putting off. I logged into social media. Mia's Facebook page loaded and my stomach turned. There were hundreds of photos. Mia and Ruby at the park. Mia and Ruby baking cookies. Mia and Ruby dressed up for Halloween. Ruby as a butterfly and Mia as a mother butterfly. The captions made it worse. My baby girl's first day of first grade. So proud of her. Nothing better than movie night with my favorite person in the world. She said I'm the best mom ever. My heart. Not aunt. Not helping my sister. Just mom. Over and over. My daughter, but in Mia's photos, with Mia's captions, in Mia's world. I scrolled back through 2 years of posts, hundreds of them, thousands of likes and comments from people congratulating Mia on being such a great mother, on raising such a wonderful daughter. One comment from someone I didn't recognize, "You're doing an amazing job as a single mom. Ruby is so lucky to have you." Mia's response, "Thank you. It's not always easy, but she's worth everything." I actually did throw up then, made it to the Denny's bathroom just in time. When I came out, shaky and pale, a waitress asked if I was okay. I nodded, ordered a coffee I didn't drink, and sat in a booth for another hour scrolling through evidence of my sister stealing my life. There were posts about our apartment, our little family, our weekend adventures. Posts asking for advice about parenting challenges, discipline strategies, school choices. Mia, playing mother, while I worked 90 hours a week to fund it. I screenshot everything, every post, every comment, every photo, sent them all to my email with the date stamps clearly visible. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Chen, and she specialized in family law. I found her through a Google search at midnight on a Tuesday, sitting in my car outside a Denny's because I couldn't stand being in my empty apartment. Our first consultation was a video call. Patricia appeared on my laptop screen, professional but warm, with kind eyes behind dark-framed glasses. "I need to understand my rights," I told her during our first phone consultation. "My daughter is living with my sister. I've been sending money, but it's complicated." "Start from the beginning," Patricia said, and her voice was kind but firm. "Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out, even if you think it makes you look bad. I can't help you if I don't know the full picture." So I did. I told her about taking the job in Boise, about trusting Mia, about sending money home, about the phone calls getting shorter and shorter, about the birthday party where I was introduced as the aunt who helps out financially. I told her about the bank statements, the $119,000, the social media posts claiming Ruby as her daughter. Patricia took notes the entire time, her expression neutral. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Maya," she said finally, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you ever at any point give your sister permission to present herself as Ruby's mother? Did you ever sign any documents? Make any agreements, verbal or otherwise?" "No," I said immediately. "Never. She was helping me, that's all. Babysitting while I worked. I never gave up my rights as a parent. I never wanted to." "Good. Because legally, what your sister has done is called parental alienation. She's deliberately interfered with your relationship with your daughter, combined with the financial fraud. Maya, this is serious, very serious." My hands started shaking. Can I get Ruby back? Can I move home?" "You can," Patricia said, "but we need to be strategic about this. Your sister has spent 3 years positioning herself as Ruby's primary caregiver. If we go in guns blazing, if we're not careful, Ruby could be traumatized by the sudden change. We need to protect her first. I felt tears sliding down my face. I just want my daughter back. I know, Patricia said softly, and we're going to make that happen. But first, I need you to gather some things for me. She gave me a list, bank statements going back 3 years, social media screenshots with dates, any text messages or emails where Mia referred to herself as Ruby's mom or where she discussed financial matters, records of every payment I'd sent, phone records showing my nightly calls with Ruby. We're building a case, Patricia explained. Not necessarily for court, although we might end up there, but we need leverage. We need to show your sister that she doesn't have a leg to stand on legally, so she'll cooperate with what we're asking. Which is? Full custody back to you. Your sister moves out of the apartment. Structured visitation that doesn't confuse Ruby about who her mother is. And repayment of the money she's taken, or at the very least, acknowledgement of the debt. It sounded impossible, but Patricia's calm confidence made me believe it could work. One more thing, she said. I need to know, do you want to press criminal charges? Because what she's done, the financial fraud at least, is a crime. You could pursue that. I thought about it. About Mia going to jail. About Ruby having to know her aunt was in prison because of me. No, I said. Not unless she refuses to cooperate. I don't want to destroy her. I just want my life back. Patricia nodded. That's very compassionate of you. Let's hope your sister appreciates that compassion and makes the right choice. Over the next 2 weeks, I became obsessed. Every free moment I was documenting, downloading bank statements, screenshotting social media, going through 3 years of text messages. I found things I'd missed before. Text exchanges between Mia and people I didn't know, talking about her daughter. A post in a mom's group asking for advice about potty training, talking about Ruby like she was hers. Even a comment on a news article about single mothers where Mia wrote, "As a single mom myself, I can relate to this so much." My coworkers in Boise noticed I was distracted. My boss pulled me aside one day. "Maya, is everything okay? Your work is still excellent, but you seem somewhere else." I almost lied, almost said everything was fine, but I was so tired of lying, of pretending, of acting like my life wasn't falling apart. "Family emergency," I said. "I might need to relocate back to Phoenix. I'm trying to figure out the logistics." He was surprisingly understanding. "We can make remote work happen if you need it. You're too valuable to lose. Just keep me posted." That conversation gave me hope. Maybe I really could go home. Maybe I could fix this. Patricia and I spoke every few days, strategizing. She reviewed all the evidence I'd gathered, organized it into a comprehensive file. "This is damning," she said during one of our calls. "Your sister has no defense for this. The question is, how do we approach her? Confrontation in person? A letter from me as your attorney? What do you think she'll respond to best?" I thought about Mia, about how she'd always been able to talk her way out of things, charm her way back into people's good graces, about how she'd cried on my doorstep 3 years ago and I'd let her in without question. "In person," I said. "She needs to see my face. She needs to know I'm serious." "Okay," Patricia agreed, "but I want you to record the conversation. Just audio, on your phone. You don't need to tell her you're doing it. Arizona is a one-party consent state." "Why record it?" "Because people say things in the heat of the moment that they deny later. If she admits to anything, if she makes threats, if she says anything we can use, we'll have it." The plan crystallized. I'd fly to Phoenix unannounced. I'd confront Mia with the evidence. I'd offer her the 2 choices, cooperate or face legal consequences. And I'd bring Ruby home with me when I left. The confrontation happened on a Saturday in April. I flew to Phoenix unannounced, took an Uber straight from the airport to the apartment that used to be mine. I had a key. Mia didn't know I still had a key because I'd never mentioned that I'd made a copy before she changed the locks, and the building manager was an old friend who'd let me get a replacement when I'd lost mine last month. I opened the door at 9 a.m. Cartoons were playing on the TV. Ruby was eating cereal at the kitchen table, still in her pajamas. She looked up when I walked in, and her eyes went wide. "Mama?" "Hi, baby," I said, and my voice only shook a little. "I missed you." Mia came out of the bedroom, and when she saw me, her face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, confusion, guilt, anger, and finally, that smooth, fake smile. "Maya, what are you doing here? You didn't tell me you were coming." "I know," I said. I set my bag down and looked around the apartment. Knew everything. Furniture I'd never seen. Artwork on the walls, a chandelier in the dining area that probably cost more than my monthly rent, all purchased with my money. "Ruby, honey," I said, keeping my voice calm, "can you go play in your room for a little bit? I need to talk to Aunt Mia." Ruby looked between us, sensing the tension. "Am I in trouble?" "No, baby, not at all. I just need some grown-up time. I promise I'll come play with you in a few minutes, okay?" She nodded and scampered off, taking her cereal bowl with her. The second her door closed, Mia's smile vanished. "What's this about?" she asked, and there was an edge to her voice I'd never heard before. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app, turned it so she could see the screen. "This is about $119,000, I said quietly. "This is about you spending my money like it was yours. This is about you telling people you're Ruby's mother. This is about you living a life I'm paying for while I work 90 hours a week in another state." Mia's face went pale, then red. I can explain." "I don't want an explanation," I interrupted. "I want you to listen. I've hired a lawyer. I have records of every transaction. I have screenshots of social media posts where you called yourself Ruby's mom. I have statements from the parents at her school who think you're the primary caretaker. Maya, please, I'm not done." My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed steady. "You have 2 choices. Choice 1, you move out of this apartment by the end of the month. You get a job and start paying me back, even if it takes you the rest of your life. You become Aunt Mia again, not Mom, and you respect my role as Ruby's mother." Mia was crying now, mascara running down her face just like it had 3 years ago when she'd shown up at my door. "What's choice 2?" she whispered. "I press charges for fraud. I sue you for every penny. I make sure everyone knows what you did. And I get a restraining order that keeps you away from Ruby completely." The apartment was so quiet I could hear the cartoon playing in Ruby's room, some theme song about friendship and adventure. "You wouldn't," Mia said, but her voice wavered. "She's your sister." "And Ruby is my daughter," I said, "a daughter you've been trying to steal from me. So, yes, Mia, I absolutely would." She collapsed onto the couch, the expensive couch I'd paid for without knowing it, and sobbed. I didn't comfort her. I just waited. Finally, she looked up at me with red, puffy eyes. "Choice 1, she whispered. "I'll take choice 1. Just, please don't take Ruby away from me completely. I do love her, Maya, I really do." "Then you'll prove it by doing what's right," I said, "starting now." I'd already laid the groundwork with my job, told them I needed to work remotely for a while due to a family emergency. They agreed, thank God. 3 years of excellent performance bought me some flexibility. I moved back to Phoenix, found a 2-bedroom apartment in Ruby's school district, signed the lease myself. Mia moved out of the old place and into a studio across town, got a job at a different salon, started making payments. $200 a month. It would take her 49 years to pay me back at that rate, but it was something, a start. The hard part, though, the really hard part, was Ruby. She didn't understand why Aunt Mia was leaving, why we were moving, why everything was changing, and I couldn't tell her the whole truth. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that the person she thought was her mom had been lying to her, stealing from her actual mother, manipulating everyone around her? You don't. You can't. Not without damaging her trust in everyone. So I told her a simplified version. "Aunt Mia made some mistakes with money," I said, sitting with her on the floor of our new, empty apartment. The movers wouldn't arrive with our furniture for another 2 days, and she needs to learn to be more responsible, so she's going to live by herself for a while, and you and I are going to live here together, just us." Ruby's bottom lip trembled. "Did I do something wrong?" My heart broke. "No, baby," I said, pulling her into my lap. "None of this is your fault, not even a little bit. This is grown-up stuff, okay? Grown-up mistakes that have nothing to do with you." "But I miss her," Ruby sobbed into my shoulder. "I miss her, Mama. Why can't she live with us?" I held her while she cried, stroking her hair, making promises I hoped I could keep. "You'll still see her, I promise. We'll visit her. She can come to your school events. She's still your Aunt Mia, and she still loves you. That part hasn't changed." What I didn't say: she was never your mom. She was never supposed to be your mom. She stole that from both of us. The first week, Ruby cried herself to sleep every night. The second week, she stopped eating much at dinner. The third week, her teacher called me. "Ruby seems withdrawn," Mrs. Patterson said gently. "She's not participating in class like she usually does. She sits by herself at recess. I'm concerned." "We're going through a family transition," I explained, the euphemism tasting bitter in my mouth. "Her aunt moved out. We moved to a new apartment. It's been an adjustment." "I see," Mrs. Patterson said. "Would it help if I referred you to our school counselor? Ms. Roberts is wonderful with children processing difficult changes." "Yes," I said immediately. "That would help. Thank you." That's how Ruby started therapy. Twice a week after school, sitting in a sunny office with Ms. Roberts, playing with dolls and talking about feelings. I didn't know what she said in those sessions. Ms. Roberts kept it confidential unless Ruby was in danger. But slowly, gradually, Ruby started to improve, started smiling again, started talking about her day, started being Ruby. I started therapy too, found a therapist who specialized in family trauma, a woman named Dr. Yolanda Washington, who didn't pull punches. "You're carrying a lot of guilt," she said during our third session. "Guilt about leaving Ruby in the first place, guilt about not seeing what your sister was doing, guilt about the confrontation, guilt about Ruby's pain now." "Shouldn't I feel guilty?" I asked. "I left my daughter for 3 years." "You were trying to provide for her," Dr. Washington said firmly. "You were doing what you thought was best, what you were told was best by someone you trusted. That's not the same as abandonment, Maya. That's not the same as neglect." "Then why does it feel like it?" "Because your sister manipulated you. She made you believe that working in Boise was the right choice, that Ruby was fine, that everything was under control. She wanted you to stay away because it gave her what she wanted, to play house with your daughter. Hearing it said so plainly, so bluntly, helped somehow, made it real in a way it hadn't been before." "How do I stop feeling guilty?" I asked. "By forgiving yourself," Dr. Washington said, "by recognizing that you were a victim too, and by focusing on what you can control now, building a real relationship with your daughter, being present, being honest, being the mother you always wanted to be but couldn't be from 800 miles away." So that's what I did. I threw myself into motherhood with the same intensity I'd thrown myself into work for 3 years. I learned Ruby's schedule, her routines, her likes and dislikes. I discovered she hated broccoli but loved Brussels sprouts, that she could recite every word of Encanto but got bored during Frozen, that she was scared of thunderstorms but fascinated by rain. I went to every soccer practice, every Girl Scout meeting, every school event. I volunteered in her classroom once a week. I learned the names of all her friends, invited them over for play dates, got to know their parents. I was building a life, our life, the one we should have had all along. It wasn't perfect. God knows it wasn't perfect. There were still hard days, days when Ruby asked why Aunt Mia couldn't come to her soccer game, and I had to enforce the boundaries we'd set. Days when she said she missed how things used to be, and I had to bite my tongue against explaining that how things used to be was built on lies. But there were good days, too, great days, days when Ruby crawled into my bed in the morning and said, "I'm glad you're here, Mama." Days when we made pancakes together and sang along to Disney soundtracks. Days when she told me about a book she was reading or a game she played at recess, sharing her world with me freely, willingly. Those were the days that made everything worth it. The visits with Mia were complicated. We'd agreed on supervised visits, once a week, always in a public place with me present, usually a park or a coffee shop. The first visit was awkward beyond belief. Ruby ran to Mia, hugged her tight. Mia's eyes met mine over Ruby's head, filled with tears and something that might have been regret. "I missed you so much," Mia said, her voice breaking. "I missed you too," Ruby said, and my heart clenched. They sat at a picnic table and colored, talked about school, about Ruby's friends, about safe topics that didn't require acknowledging the elephant in the park, that everything had changed and nothing would ever be the same. I sat on a nearby bench, watching, making sure Mia didn't overstep, didn't call herself mom, didn't make promises she couldn't keep, didn't try to undermine me. To her credit, she didn't. She was careful, appropriate, clearly uncomfortable with the new boundaries, but respecting them nonetheless. After an hour, I called over. "Ruby, it's time to go, sweetie." Ruby hugged Mia goodbye. "Can I see you next week?" "Of course," Mia said, looking at me for confirmation. "If your mom says it's okay." Not if it's okay. Not if Maya says so. If your mom says it's okay. It was a small thing, but it felt like progress. In the car on the way home, Ruby was quiet. Then she said, "Mama, why does Aunt Mia seem sad?" I chose my words carefully. "Because she misses seeing you all the time, but she understands that things need to be different now, that I'm your mom, and I need to be the one taking care of you." "She used to say she was my mom, too," Ruby said softly. "Was that wrong?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Dr. Washington and I had practiced this conversation, how to be honest without being cruel. "She was confused," I said finally. "She loved you so much that she forgot you already had a mom, me, and that wasn't fair to either of us. But she's trying to do better now, to be a great aunt instead of pretending to be something she's not." "Oh," Ruby said. Then after a pause, "I only have one mom, right? Just you?" "Just me," I confirmed, my voice steady even though I wanted to cry. "Always have, always will." "Okay," Ruby said, and went back to looking out the window. Small victories. That's what Dr. Washington called them. Small moments of progress that would eventually add up to healing. Patricia, my lawyer, became something like a friend. We'd meet for coffee sometimes, and she'd check in on how things were going. "You did the right thing," she told me during one of those meetings. "It took courage." "It took too long," I said. "I should have seen what was happening." "You were surviving," Patricia said firmly. "You were doing what you thought you had to do for your daughter. Don't blame yourself for your sister's choices." I tried to believe her. I could make more money. What I couldn't get back were the years, the moments, the memories I should have been making with Ruby instead of working 90-hour weeks in another state. But I could start making new memories. And I did. Ruby's 8th birthday was different. It was just us, in our new apartment, making homemade pizza and watching her favorite movies. No big party, no crowds, just mother and daughter. "This is the best birthday ever," Ruby said, snuggled against me on the couch, and I felt something inside me, finally start to heal. "I love you, baby girl," I whispered. "I love you too, Mama," she said. And this time, when she said it, I knew she meant it. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. 6 months after I moved back, I got a promotion. Senior Director of Operations, managing teams remotely. $135,000 a year. I could have gone back to traveling, back to the 90-hour weeks, but I turned down that part of the job, negotiated for full remote work, strict boundaries, no travel unless absolutely necessary. My boss was surprised. "This is a significant career opportunity, Maya. Are you sure?" "I'm sure," I said. "I have other priorities now." Because I'd learned something important. Money is necessary, yes, but it's not worth losing yourself for. It's not worth losing your child for. I bought a used car that actually started reliably. I took Ruby to the Grand Canyon for a weekend, just the two of us. I joined the PTA at her school. I became a room mom for her class. All the things I'd thought I couldn't do because I was too busy working to afford her life. I could do them. I just had to choose differently. Mia and I don't talk much. Once a month, maybe, to coordinate Ruby's visits. The relationship is cordial, professional. Not what it was, but maybe that's okay. Maybe what it was wasn't healthy anyway. She's still paying me back. $200 a month, like clockwork. In 48 more years, we'll be even. I think about forgiving the debt sometimes, just letting it go. But Patricia advised against it. It's not about the money anymore, she said. It's about accountability. She needs to know there are consequences, that she can't just take from people and expect forgiveness without restitution. So the payments continue, and I put them in Ruby's college fund, every single one, turning Mia's betrayal into Ruby's future. There's a certain poetry in that. Ruby asked me once, about a year after everything changed, "Mama, why did Aunt Mia do those bad things?" I thought about how to answer that, how to be honest without destroying her relationship with her aunt completely. Sometimes, I said carefully, people get confused about what's theirs and what isn't. Sometimes they want something so badly they convince themselves it's okay to take it. Aunt Mia wanted to be a mom, and she forgot that you already had a mom, me. Ruby nodded, processing this. She said she was sorry. I know she did, baby, and I think she means it. But being sorry isn't enough. You have to actually change, actually make things right. Are you still mad at her? I considered this. Was I? Not mad, I said finally. Just sad. Sad about what could have been if she'd made different choices. But I'm not mad anymore. Mad is too much energy, and I'd rather spend my energy on you. Ruby hugged me tight. I'm glad you came back, Mama. Me too, baby, I whispered. Me too. Last week, Ruby came home from a visit with Mia and handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $400 instead of the usual $200. There was a note attached in Mia's handwriting. I got a promotion, doubling my payments. I know it's still not enough, but I'm trying. Thank you for not giving up on me completely. M. I stared at that note for a long time, at the words thank you that I never thought I'd see from her, at the evidence that maybe, possibly, she was actually trying to change. I put the check in Ruby's college fund, wrote Mia a text, "Good for you on the promotion. Keep it up." She responded immediately, "I will, I promise." I don't know if she'll keep that promise. History suggests she won't. But I'm choosing to give her the chance to prove me wrong, not for her sake, for Ruby's. Because my daughter deserves to know her aunt, the real version of her aunt, if that person actually exists underneath all the lies and manipulation. Time will tell. Meanwhile, I'm living my life, actually living it, not just working to fund someone else's version of it. I cook dinner with Ruby every night. I help with homework. I attend every school event, every dance recital, every parent-teacher conference. I bought a house. Just a small one, 2 bedrooms. But it's ours, mine and Ruby's. I planted a garden in the backyard, and Ruby helps me water it every evening. We're growing tomatoes and cucumbers and strawberries. We're growing a life together, the one we should have had all along. I'm not going to pretend it's all perfect now. There are hard days. Days when Ruby acts out because she's still processing everything that happened. Days when I feel guilty about the years I missed, the mistakes I made. But mostly, there are good days. Days when Ruby runs off the school bus into my arms. Days when we laugh until our stomachs hurt. Days when she tells me I'm the best mom in the world, and I almost believe her. I've learned things I wish I'd known 3 years ago. I've learned that family can betray you in the deepest ways. I've learned that working yourself to death doesn't make you a good parent. It just makes you absent. I've learned that setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's necessary. I've learned that sometimes the person who looks exactly like you, who shares your DNA, who you'd trust with anything, is the person you should have been most careful around. But I've also learned that it's never too late to change your life, to stand up for yourself, to fight for what matters. Ruby is 9 now. She's thriving. Straight A's in school, captain of her soccer team, first chair flute in the school band. She has friends, real friends, and sleepovers and inside jokes I don't always understand. She's happy. And that, more than anything, tells me I did the right thing. Last night, she was doing homework at the kitchen table while I made dinner. Just a regular Tuesday evening. Nothing special. "Mama," she said, not looking up from her math worksheet. "Yeah, baby. I'm really glad you're here." Such a simple sentence, 6 words, but they meant everything. "I'm glad I'm here too," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. This is my life now, not the one I planned, not the one I imagined when I took that job in Boise 3 years ago, thinking I was doing what was best for my daughter. But it's the life I fought for, the life I chose, once I finally understood what I'd been giving up. And it's a pretty damn good life. If you've made it this far, thank you, truly. Here's what I learned from my experience, and maybe it'll help someone out there who needs to hear it. 1. Working yourself to death for your family doesn't make you a hero. It just makes you tired. Your presence matters more than your presence. 2. Trust but verify. Even with family, especially with family, love doesn't mean blind faith. 3. It's never too late to take back your life. It might be hard, it might be messy, but it's worth it. And 4. Sometimes the person who looks just like you is the person you understand the least. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Have you ever sacrificed too much for the wrong reasons? Drop a comment below, like, subscribe, and check out the video in the description for another story about family, boundaries, and finding your way back to yourself. Until next time. Remember that you're not selfish for wanting a life of your own. You're human. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.